So in previous classes, we have discussed about basics of Python. I hope you got some basic knowledge about Python program. Okay. So now from today, we will start the actual course, which is Django Full Stack Framework. Okay. So introduction to Django. So Django is a high-level Python web framework. Okay. So far we just learned what is Python and how to use Python language. So Django is a framework. So which means Django have some tools to develop web application. Okay, so Django is a high-level Python web framework, which is used for web application web development. So that's why it's called as a web framework. So it encourages rapid web development and clean, pragmatic design. Okay, so to design a web application, so it will provide some structure. Okay, and it encourages rapid web development because it has some inbuilt tools. So using those tools, we can rapidly develop web applications. Okay, and Django is free and open source. Okay, so to use Django, you don't have to pay any money. Simply you can download it and use it, and it is a open source project. Here are the some key features about Django. So Django have built-in admin interface. Okay, so once you create a web application using Django, so you will get a built-in admin interface. Okay, so this admin interface is used to access your data in a web interface. Okay, so you can access your database data as a modern UI website so that you can control the backend data using this admin interface. Okay, and there is ORM support in Java as object relational mapping. So in previous class we have discussed about how to communicate with database, right? So we have communicated with database using SQL, right? I said that we don't use SQL in Django, right? So instead of SQL, we use ORM, okay, which is object relational mapping. So we access those database classes as database tables as models in our Django so that we can access them as objects. Okay, like you like using dot notation. So we can access our database models as so Python objects. It is possible using ORM. Okay, Django has ORM support, which is called as object relational mapping, which is used to communicate with our database tables. Okay, and there is a URL routing. Okay, so URL routing is used for mapping URLs to your website. So when you open a website, you access different URLs, right? So when you click on home page, so a different URL will change in your browser, right? And you click on login page, so a different URL will change, right? So in Django, so you have URL routing. So URL route using URL routing, you can map. So for what URL, so what you should show. Okay, so you can map that using this URL routing. Okay, and in Django there is template engine. Okay, so template engine is uh, used to handle the user interface part. Okay, so we have seen yesterday in yesterday's class we have seen that how to create HTML pages and how to add styling, right? So for that page, for those pages, how can we can handle those pages in Django using this template engine? There is form handling support. So form handling support is used for creating dynamic forms. So for example, if you access some Facebook login page, right? So that Facebook login page will have some like username or email and password fields, right? So those fields can be automatically generated using Django. So by using form handling. Okay, and finally, uh, Django has some security features. Okay, security features like uh, security features for like SQL injection. Okay, protection from SQL injection. Okay, and form scripting. Okay, so there will be some cross-site scripting, right? So when you access a website, there will be high chances of hackings and cross-site scriptings. From those attacks, Django have inbuilt security features to counterattack on them. Okay. So why should we use Django? So there are different types of web application frameworks in Python. Okay, so there is Flask framework, there is Bottleneck. Okay, and there are Fast API. There are different types of web frameworks in Python. But why should we use Django means? So it encourages rapid web development. Okay, so Django's batteries included philosophy speeds up development. So in other web frameworks, so everything you have to create manually. For example, if you take Flask web framework, so it is a lightweight framework, so which is good for starting a small project. But in Flask by using Flask framework, so everything should be created manually. There is no automation and there is no proper structure. So you can follow whatever the structure you want. But in Django, so everything is included in the Django package itself, like handling authentication, communicating with databases using ORM, okay, security features, admin interface, okay. So everything is included in the Django itself. But in other frameworks, everything you should download again other different third-party modules, and you have to include that features, okay. But in Django, everything is included, and it has some proper structure, predefined structure. So using that structure, you can make your web applications. And next one is scalability. So scalability in the sense, so initially your project may be a small project, okay, but later when your project grows, so it will be un unmanageable to maintain that project because when once the project grows, so it's highly a challenge to scale the application, okay. But Django is as Django has some proper structure and Django has some proper tools to handle that, so that scalability is not a issue. So it is suitable for both small and large scale projects. Okay, but Flask is more suitable for small scale projects. Once the project grows, so it is hard to scale the project in Flask. Okay, and as we discussed, Django has some security features like built-in protection against common security threats, and Django is versatility can be used for various types of web applications. Like you can use for e-commerce web applications, just for API applications, or you can use for dashboards. Okay, for different types of things, you can use this Django web applications. And community support. So there is large community for Python and Django, so that whenever you face a issue, you can easily search that issue and you can tackle that issue easily because Django has some large and active community. And next, so Django follows MVT architecture. Okay, so which means model, view, template, architecture. Okay, so these are the terms that we use in Django programming language, Django framework. So one is model, and the second one is view, and and third one is template. Okay, so model manages the data and database. Okay, so view handles the logic and interactions with the model to carry data and renders a template. Okay, and template manages the presentation layer and handles the user interface. Okay, I will explain this in detail. MVT architecture stands for model, view, and template. Okay, so we have already discussed about the Webflow, right? So in Webflow, so when the client access a request for a URL, okay, for a Django application, okay. So in server, we handle. So this is a view. So once we are calling for a URL, so it will call a particular view. Okay, so this view handles model templates. Okay, so this model holds the database models or tables. Okay, so this templates holds the HTML or presentation data. Okay, so whenever you request a URL, for example, www.facebook.com/login. Okay, so this request will be sent to the respective view. So view handles the logical part. So it will handle, so what it will deals with the, so it will read first what you are trying to request, then it will process that request and it will send back the templates. The templates are nothing but HTML data. Okay, so it will, this view will read the request, and if this request is any data, so it will contact the database and it will read the data and it will send back the data including your presentation code, which means your front-end logical code and the data that required for this page. Okay, so this is the MVT architecture. Okay, so MVT in the sense models. Models are database tables. V is the view, which is the actual Python code that handles your both front-end and back-end data. And this templates is the front-end code. Okay, so which are HTML and CSS bootstrap code is handled in these templates. Okay, so totally these three uh, Django follows these three architecture, which is called as MVT architecture. Okay. So in this diagram, you can see that user is requesting a request to the Django framework, and that URL is sending to the view. So that view is able to handle both models and templates. So it is both able to handle data, database data and as well as the presentation data. Okay. So based on the request, if there is a requirement of backend data, I mean database data, it will request the respective table using ORM queries, and it will process that request and it will send back the requested page to the user. Okay, so if I'm requesting in this view area, okay, so these are the MVT architecture, which is transfers model view and template. Okay, in other languages like JavaScript, sorry, in other languages like Java and C++, they follow MVC architecture. Okay, so that is called as model, view, and controller. Okay, so but Django follows MVT architecture, which stands for model, view, and template. Okay, so next one is virtual environment. So before creating Django application, so we should understand about a small topic called as virtual environment. So a virtual environment is an isolated Python environment. Okay, so it allows you to manage dependencies of different projects separately. Okay, so benefits of using this virtual environment is, so it avoids conflicts between different dependencies, keeps the global Python environment clean. Okay, so you can create virtual environments using these two tools. You can use either venv or virtual env. Okay, so I will explain this in simple terms. Okay, don't worry, but this is an important thing you should understand. virtual environment. Okay. So virtual environment is used to isolate your Python environment. Okay. So this basically this virtual environment is used to separate your project from your global installation in your system. Okay. For example, if I consider this is my system environment area. Okay. So here I'm installing different Python modules. Python, Django, nothing. Flask. Okay. Recently we installed emoji. So like this, I'm installing so different modules in my system. Okay. Now I'm creating a project. So in this project, so initially I have installed project for this project. I have installed Django version 5.0 version I have installed. Okay. So for this project one, I want Django version 4.2. Okay. So based on some requirements, I want this old version of Django. Okay. So and in another project in my system, consider it as project 2. For this, I want Django 3.2. Okay. So but in my system, I have installed 5.0 version. Okay. So if you check, so you can see that currently in my system, Django 4.2.04 version is installed. Okay. But for different projects, I want to install different version of project, a different version of Django module. Okay. So that can be possible by creating a virtual environment. Okay. So this virtual environment will separate the environment of this project, okay, and this project and your global environment. Okay. So by this, we are creating a separate environment for your project, which is independent of any other environment. So it is not dependent on the pre-installed modules in your system. Okay. For example, if you see here, so in my system total, if I check, so these are the all the modules that are already installed in my system. Okay. So if you see, so this is the list of modules that installed in my system. Okay. I don't want all this for my project. I don't want all these modules. I want only specific modules, but those mod. So you can see that for each module there is a version. Okay. So based on that version, there may be some bug fixes, new features. Okay, or some old features. Okay. In new version, some old features will be removed. Okay, and some if there are any bugs, those bugs will be removed. Like that, new versions will be released in time. Okay, so these are the already installed modules in my system. But for my project, I want specific modules, but with the different versions. Okay, so not these versions. I want different versions so that I can use virtual environments to create a separate environment for each project, so that I can install whatever the required modules for that project, as well as I can install whatever the required version of my modules. Okay, so by doing that, I am independent of other projects, so that so I can focus on each and every project using this virtual environments. Okay, so that is for this purpose we use virtual environments. Okay, so in simple terms, it will create a separate space for each project. So in this each project, you can install different versions of modules. Okay, so which are independent of the modules installed in your system. So which is some 5.0. Okay, for example, if you installed 5.0 in your system, but for each project you have used different versions, so there will be no issue. Okay, but generally, so without virtual environments, what you have to do is for each whenever you are running each project, you have to uninstall the actual version and you have to install the required version. Okay, for example, if I'm running this project one, I have to uninstall 5.0 and then I have to install 3.2. Okay, and if I'm running project 2, so I have to uninstall this 3.2 and again I have to install 4.2. For project 3, I want to uninstall 4.2 and install 5.4. Okay, so to avoid this mess, we can create a separate space for each project so that we can use whatever the modules we need. Okay, so for that purpose, we use virtual environments. Okay, so creating a virtual environment. Okay, so you can use VNV module to create a virtual environment. The command for creating virtual environment is Python space -m space venv and your virtual environment name. Okay, so in here in this example, I am giving my virtual environment name as my env, which means my environment. Okay, so like this, you can create that virtual environment. So to activate that environment, these are the commands. In Windows, you can directly call myenv/script/activate so that your virtual environment will be activated. So that whenever you want to use this project, so you have to go to your project folder and run this command so that virtual environment will be activated for your each project so that you can use the modules installed in that environment. Okay, for same for Mac OS and Linux, the command is a little bit different compared to Windows. So the command is source space for virtual environment name /bin/activate. Okay, so like this we can create virtual environments. Let us create a virtual environment for exercise. So here I am creating a folder called as project one. Okay, so I have created a folder called as project one and I am entering into this project one and opening VS Code, that folder. So I am in project one folder. So in this I am creating a virtual environment. So for this project I am creating a virtual environment. So to create virtual environment, the command is Python -n space venv and space and whatever the virtual name you want to give to your virtual environment, that you can give. Here I'm giving my env. This will be the name of my virtual environment. So after clicking enter, you can see that a folder with my env being created. Okay. So you have to wait until your cursor gets here. So your virtual environment is getting created. So successfully now virtual environment got created. To activate this environment, so if you see, the command is my env, which is your virtual environment name. Okay. So you can see the structure of your my virtual environment. So this my env has subfolders like lib library folder and script folder. Okay, so here backslash scripts. Okay, so scripts, so you can see there is activate slash activate. Okay, so this is the command to activate your virtual environment. So after clicking this, you can see that in parentheses you got my env for this part, so which means your virtual environment is active. Okay. So like this, whenever you want to run this project, you want to go to your project folder, which is project one, and you have to run this command. Okay. So only once you have to create this virtual environment. Uh, but whenever you want to run this project, first you want to activate this virtual environment. So if it's successfully activated, like this here in parentheses, you will get your virtual environment name. And to deactivate your virtual environment, you can simply use deactivate command so that this parenthesis virtual environment name will be removed, which means your virtual environment got deactivated. Okay. So now, so let us activate once more. So I have activated. So in this, I am installing Django. To install any module, this is the command pip space install space that module name. So in this virtual environment, I am installing Django version of 5.0. Okay, so there is no 5.0. Okay, so to install, to give a specific version, you have to use double equal to. Okay, so I have installed a Django of 5.0 version in this virtual environment. So it is installing. So until you get the cursor, it is still installing. So now it's properly installed. You can check the installed modules in your project by typing command pip space freeze. So you will get the installed modules. So you have installed Django 5.0. So these are the dependent modules for this Django. So once we have installed Django, so it will install the dependent modules as well. So this Django module is dependent on these three modules. So those also automatically install. But here you have installed Django with 5.0 version. Okay. So now, so this is in my virtual environment. Okay. But if you deactivate your virtual environment, now I am in global environment. So global environment in the sense my system environment. So here, if you check your Django version, so it is 4.2.4. Okay. So the global version that we install in system is different, and the virtual environment that the Django version we are using for our project one is different. Okay. So this is made possible by using virtual environment. Okay. So now I am in global space. So to enter into the virtual environment space, simply I have to use this command. So I will enter into the virtual environment space. So here, if you check with the same command of Django version, so here the Django version in virtual environment, your Django version will be 5.0. Okay, in the global version, your Django version is 4.2.4. Okay, so like this, we can separate your modules for different projects using virtual environments. Okay, to activate this virtual environment, simply plus deactivate. Okay, let me create another project and another virtual environment. So I'm creating a project folder as project 2. Okay, so in this project 2, I'm opening my VS Code. I'm activating, again, I'm creating a virtual environment separately for this project to create python -n env. So here I'm giving env for my virtual environment name as well. So here you can see that a folder got created with subfolders include library and scripts. So we have to wait until this cursor gets. So to activate this, env slash scripts slash activate. Okay, so that this virtual environment will get activated. So you can install whatever the. So here I am trying to install Django of 3.2. Okay. So now, so in this virtual environment, if you check the Django version, so you can see that in this the Django version installed is 3.2. Okay. So now if I deactivate this virtual environment and if I check the Django version, in my system, 4.2.4 Django version is installed. Okay. So like this, you can separate different projects with different environments so that there will be no conflicts with no conflicts and no installing and uninstalling. So it will reduce some extra work and it will make our work easy. Okay, so these are called as virtual environments, which will separate environment, which will create a separate Python environment for each project. Okay, so next one is setting up Django environment. So just now we have seen that how to install Django. So the command for installing Django is pip install Django, and to verify the installation, the command is pip sorry Python space minus n space Django space double bars and version. Okay, so it will return the version of Django that installed in your environment. Okay, so now to create your first Django project, so you use the Django admin command to create a new project. The command is Django admin space start project space your project name. Okay, so let's create your first Django project using this command. So to create your first Django project, open command line in your projects folder. Okay. So in this folder, create a project name as my project. Okay. So in this folder, open your VS Code, not Visual Studio. I have to open VS Code, but instead I click on Visual Studio. Okay. So create your project folder and open your project folder in VS Code. Okay. So after opening in command line, so first create your virtual environment. So this should be your first step while creating a project. First, you have to create your virtual environment for your project, and then activate that virtual environment. Okay. So after activating, install Django. You can install Django. So if you want to mention any version, so you can mention that version using double equal to and the version number. If you want to install the latest Django version, simply type pip install Django. So the latest version of Django will be installed into your system. Okay, so the latest version is 5.0.6. So that is getting installed. Okay, so Django is successfully installed. Now let us create our project structure. To create project structure, so Django admin space start project space, so project name, my project space dot. Okay, so dot in the sense, okay, to create this project in this folder. Okay, space dot. So you can see that a subfolder with my project folder is created and a file with manage.py is created. Okay, so here you can see there are different files that been created. Which one is init.py file. So which says that this folder is a package. Okay, package in the sense collection of modules. Okay, so we have already seen modules while discussing Python basics, right? So in Python basics, we have discussed about modules. So module is nothing but a Python script which contains some Python code. Okay. So a package is collection of modules. Okay. So if in a folder there are more than one Python file, so it can be considered as a package. So to consider it as a package, you have to include this empty init file. Okay. So init.py file should be included to consider this folder as a package. Okay. So here we have different other files like ASCII, okay, settings, URLs, and this key. Okay. So these are the different files that we are in our project. And there is one more file called as manage.py. So we'll see what these files one by one. So this is how you can basically create your first Django project. Okay, the command is Django admin start project and your project name space dot. Okay, so without virtual environment, you can directly create just Django admin start project and my project. But if you want to use virtual environment, uh, first first you should create your project folder. So and then you want to enter it into that project folder and create virtual environment and then install that Django and then you have to create your Django project. Okay, so steps. Now let us see what these file names are. Okay, so this is the command for creating Django project without virtual environment. Without virtual environment. Okay, so Django admin start project my project will directly create your project folder as well as those subfolders. Okay, but if you want to with virtual environment, first you have to create your project folder, enter into that folder and create virtual environment and add an additional dot for creating that project in your already defined project. Okay, so this is the Django project structure. Okay, so in created Django project, you have manage.py file. Okay, so this file is acts as a command line utility for interacting with the project. Okay, so using this file we'll make the commands so that we can interact with our project. Okay, and then we have my project subfolder, right? So in that my project subfolder we have different types of files. So the first file is init.py file. Okay, I have already said it is an empty file that tells Python this directory should be considered as a package. Okay, as I said, so a package is a collection of modules. So you can consider all these other files as modules, settings.py, urls.py, sd.py, asd.py are modules. So to consider this as a package, that that init file should be included so that Python considers this my project as a package. Okay. So next settings.py file. So settings.py file, we have the configuration settings of the for the project. Okay. So all the required configuration settings like database settings, okay, app settings, all will be in this settings.py file. Okay, and there is urls.py file. So in this urls.py file, so URL declarations of the project. Okay, so we have already discussed about in the MVT architecture that once we request a URL, so respective view will be called. Okay, So those mappings will be handled by this urls.py. Okay, for what request, for what URL, so what should be mapped, mapped. Okay, so those mappings will be handled in this urls.py file. Okay, and there is WSGI and ASCII files. These are some entry points of your application. You don't have to disturb this WSGI, ASCII, and init files. Okay, so you can only edit your settings and URLs. Okay, so you will deal with only settings.py file and urls.py file. So remaining files are uh, you don't need to edit them. Okay, so those are like entry points to your application. Okay, so they will have some predefined code, so you don't have to disturb that code. So in details, the manage.py file. So this is a command line utility that tells you to interact with the Django project. Okay, so using this manage.py file, so you can run the server. Okay, so which means you can start your project using this manage.py file. Okay, and migrate. So migration is applies database migrations. So as we said, we can interact with your database using your Django project. So in the same way, we can create tables and everything using this Django itself. Okay, so we don't have to do SQL manual queries. So to apply those changes, we have to do migrations. So those changes are called migrations in Django. So you can run those migrations using this manage.py file. Okay, and there is create super user. So create super user in the sense to create a admin user for your project. As I said, Django comes with pre-installed admin user interface. Okay, so to log in into that admin interface, you have to create a super user. Super user in the sense admin user for your application. Okay, so to create that admin user, you can create that admin user using this manage.py file. Okay, and finally you can create apps. Okay, so which means in a project you don't create entire project in one section, right? You will divide your project into different sections. Like for example, if there is a Facebook application, so in Facebook application you'll separate all the code regarding the authentication, like login, registration, logout. Okay, so those code will be separated. Okay, and chatting. Okay, so in Facebook you chat, right? So those chatting code will be separated. Okay, so like this, you can separate each section in Django using apps. Okay, for each section, you can create a separate app. So those apps can be created using this manage.py file. Okay, so by giving this start app command, so you can create a separate app for different sections of code. So next one is settings.py file. Okay, so this settings.py file is used to which contains configuration settings of the project. Okay, so as I said, so it will have all the installed apps. So just now we have discussed about the apps, right? So apps are nothing but a specific code of your application which is separated. So for easy maintenance. Okay, so those app details should be mapped in these settings. Okay, and then you will have database configuration, like to which database you should uh, make a connection. Okay, so all those details, database connection settings will be held in this settings file. And templates, as we said, templates are nothing but your HTML pages. So those mapping settings also will be built in this settings file. Okay, so and the URLs and WSGI and ASCII files. As I said, this URL file will have the URL declarations, and WSGI and ASCII are the entry points of your application. So you don't need to worry about these pages, especially WSGI and ASCII. Okay, so those are entry points of your application. So you don't have to edit them. Okay, so these are the files that your Django project holds. So to run your Django application, the command is python space manage.py space run server. As I said, this manage.py user to run your run your application. So by running this application, so your application is visible at this URL. Okay, so which is http colon double slash 127.0.0.1 colon 8000 slash. Okay, so this will be your website for your your application. Okay, so this IP address is nothing but local IP address because you are running on your system. So it will give a common local address, local IP address with a port number. Okay, so this port number will be so different for different types of applications. So for Django applications, the port number is 8000. Okay, and the previous address, this 127.0.0.1 is local address for any application. So since you are running on your system, you have local IP address. For suppose same application, if you are running on a server, you will have the actual website address. Okay, like the facebook.com, google.com, instagram.com. Okay, so since you are running on your local system, it will give you a temporary IP address so that you can access this address in your browser and check your application. Okay, so let us run our first Django application with using this command. Okay, so now so we are in our project folder and the virtual environment is activated. Okay, so now to run this application, the command is python space manage.py. Okay, so manage.py is nothing but this here, this Python file name, manage.py file name. Manage.py space run server. Okay, and press enter. Okay, so now, so it is saying that your application is running at this address. Okay, so if you control click and press on this address, it will open in the website that you are looking for. Okay, or you can manually open up and you can run search for that address. So which is 121.0.0.1 column 8000. Okay, so you will get this landing page. Okay, so this is the default Django application. So if you get this page, it means you successfully installed your first Django application. Okay, so like this, you can create your Django application and run. Okay, so once more, I will show how to create application to avoid confusion. Okay, so to create a Django application with virtual environment. Okay, so I will show first I will show without virtual environment. So to create it without virtual environment, directly open the command prompt in the folders projects folder. So in your projects folder, so without virtual environment, I'm creating. To create, direct use Django. First, check for whether Django is installed or not in your system. So if installed, so it will say that requirement already satisfied. Okay. So then to create Django project, Django admin space start project space and your project name. Okay. Enter. Okay. Python scripts. Okay. Python. Okay. So to create a project, Django admin space start project project name my website. So I'm going to create process. Just a second. Okay, so now the project is successfully installed. So your project will be created with the given name, which is my project. But created. Okay, it's created in some else project. Let me open terminal in this your project folder. Okay, so in this project folder, Django admin start project space my website. Okay, so now, so if you don't get any error, it is successfully created. So now if you go to your project folder and refresh, so you can see your my website project, my website folder. So in this my website folder, you can see a subfolder with again my website, which will have the init file, ASCII file, settings file, URL file, and history file. So and also you'll have manage.py file. So this is without virtual environment. So if you create without virtual environment, it will directly use the Django version of your global version. Okay, so whatever the Django version you have installed in your system, so that version will be used. Okay, so if you want to create with virtual environment, the syntax is sorry, the flow is first you have to create your project folder. Okay, so project folder is my new project. Okay, so you have to enter into that folder and open in VS Code. Okay, so on the command line, so now you create your virtual environment. Python space -n env here. So your virtual environment will be created. So after creating virtual environment, activate it. env scripts activate. Okay, so after activating, install the required Django. So here I want Django of 3.2 version. So I'm installing 3.2 version. So this facility will be not available in global settings. If you try to pip install Django 3.2, it will uninstall the previous version and it will install this. Okay, so now I have installed Django. Now create project in this. So for this, the command is little bit different. Django admin start project. Okay, so your project name, my new project. Okay, so this is the common command for without virtual environment or virtual environment. So in virtual environment, you have to extra use space dot. Okay, so this dot is to create this project in selected folder. Okay, so here by using virtual environment, we have already created the project folder, right? To say that to create a new project in the same folder itself, we have to use dot. Else it will create again another my new project and another subfolder. Okay, so to avoid that double subfolders, we have to use this extra space dot. Okay, so that it will create your project in the selected folder. Okay, so here the given name will be assigned to this subfolder. Okay, which is holding your config settings. Okay, so this name can be you can give any name for this. Okay, so either you can give your project name, or if you want you can give like app config. Okay, main settings. Okay, like that you can give the name so that this name will be assigned to this settings folder. Okay, so like this you can create your projects using virtual environment or without virtual environment. Okay, so if you are using with virtual environment, the extra command you have to give is nothing but space dot. Okay, so which will create your project in the selected folder. Okay, so if you want to run this project, the command is python space manage.py run server. Okay, so you'll get the URL. So you can control click on this URL. It will open in your browser. Okay, or you can directly search this URL in your browser, so you'll get. Okay, so you can type this entire IP address, or you can use local host as well. Okay, so like local host colon 8,000. Okay. So this will also map to the same application. So this IP address is nothing but which resembles local. Okay. So like this you can access. So in tomorrow's class, let us create web pages for different URLs using Django. For today, practice how to create virtual environments, how to install the different versions of Django modules, and how to create a Django application and run it in your browser. Okay, so that will be your today's exercise. Okay, any doubts regarding installations or anything? Okay, thank you then. So please try to practice this by creating virtual environments, creating Django projects, and running in your browser. Okay, thank you.